Alright, so today I have pimple patches on my chin and I don't have any makeup on and I'm freshly out of the shower, but I made my bed for you so you don't have to see my unmade bed. But like I didn't really want to slather my face with makeup. I just wanted to have a chat. And like I don't wear makeup full regalia to like just chat with my good friends about like what's going on with my life. Like they see my ugliest angles on FaceTime, and like they see my worst. Not that you need to see my worst, but I want it to be that way where it's just like this is just real. So that's why I wanted to film. And if I want to film but I don't want to do all those things, I'm not going to make excuses of like why I can't film. I just don't feel like it. Like my face is pimply. It's just, it hurts. I have like a lot of like I traveled a lot, and so whenever I travel, like my whole regime kind of like goes to hell as far as like cleaning my face, eating well, blah blah blah. I don't know if that ever happens to you. Probably does. I'm not like unique that way, but I just didn't feel like I need to just let it do its thing and like breathe, and I didn't feel like putting on. I don't know why I'm like over explaining this. Basically, sometimes things are chill and I just want to be like authentic right now, I guess. But I also wanted to make a video. I wanted to make a video for several reasons. It always helps me to like talk about stuff. It's almost like a little bit of a therapy, even though like some of the things that I talk about are not like intense. They're just kind of like explaining. But to explain it to somebody and to have it like received by somebody is like a little bit more connection than what I get when I live by myself, when I don't really have any friends kind of like in my presence. And so YouTube has always served that purpose for me. But it's good for me to like arrange my thoughts and explain them to somebody, because it arranges my thoughts for myself. And so it's like twofold. It like allows me to get it out of my head, especially when I feel stressed out, or just like when I'm happy, I want to share it with somebody. But it's just interesting, I feel, to explain some stuff about your life and to have somebody else see it if their lives are a little bit different. Like I tend to follow only the people that like I not admire, but like I'm interested in their lifestyle. I'm interested in how they make their choices. I'm interested in what they're doing. I don't know if you can relate to this, but when I was younger, I would focus on kind of like hot mess people, because they were like really fun to watch, because like the train wreck was just so bad. It made me feel better about myself, and that's horrible to say, but like if you really think about why you watch these people, I feel like that's what you get out of it. Like you get the satisfaction that at least my life isn't that screwed up. And as I started making my life less and less screwed up, I was like, this doesn't serve the same purpose. So I stopped watching like the people that just would create like so much drama. I don't really even have a lot of drama in my life, like at all. And I'm really happy for that. And I worked really hard to like, eliminate that. So for me, the people that I like to watch are the people that are like going somewhere. They have some sort of passion, or they have some sort of thing that they're working towards, or like they have like they have something that I value in what they're doing. Like I watched this lady who makes a channel just about gardening. She's so passionate about gardening, and she talks about gardening in like such like a nerdy like way, but like she's not nerdy whatsoever. I don't know, I would have never thought that in my 20s that I would like my future self would be like into every now and then watching this garden tour. And it's like 100-minute video about everything that they have in their garden and how they're like turning it over and stuff like that. I don't know why I'm babbling about this, except for the fact that like your tastes become more elevated the more elevated that you like the life that you find yourself in. And so I think maybe just talking is like good enough in these types of videos, because maybe somebody might be interested in my particular life. So I guess that's a long-winded version of like why I find it important to like talk about the different aspects of my life, because I understand that it's not like kind of normal to be self-employed, and to kind of be on my own, and to not really not really care that I'm on my own. I feel like all that combined equals I'm a little bit different than other people. Other people, you know, kind of stay around where they first planted themselves, and other people, you know, have normal kind of lifestyles and jobs and have the weekends off and stuff like that. So like my life isn't like that. So maybe it's interesting to see, you know, what I care about and what I do and blah blah blah. So I recently just went on a trip to visit my family. That's why I'm like tired, but I'm always tired, but like I'm tired because I drove the whole way, and I thought maybe driving would be more fun and cheaper than flying, but it's not. It's not when you're just driving by yourself. So anyways, it was a really long trip, but it gives you a lot of time to think about things in the car as you're like in traffic and passing through like the bigger cities. And so something that I wanted to talk about with you was a sense of belonging and a sense of understanding how things sort of work. Those are two different ideas that I wanted to touch upon. But okay, so a sense of belonging, I always think that returning home is going to give me a sense of belonging because that's where I grew up. But if I'm being real, I never really felt a sense of belonging when I was there because I always felt different than the other people. I always felt like I was meant to like leave that place instead of like plant my seeds into the ground and kind of stay there. I feel like a lot of people feel like it's very homey and it's very safe and it's very like this is, you know, it feels good to them. But home always felt good geographically. It felt good visually, aesthetically pleasing, because it's beautiful. It's a beautiful place. But culturally, I just didn't ever feel comfortable there. I always felt like an outsider, especially with the things that I like to do with my time. I always felt like an outsider. And so I don't know why I have this grand expectation of feeling comfort and feeling good about going home. I do feel good, and I do feel like, you know, it's always worth the trip because I get to see people in my life that make me happy. But it's the finding of home is, if I'm being real, it never really works out that way for me. I always leave kind of feeling like I don't belong still, and I don't know why I expect it to be different, but I do. And probably because I feel like the places that I've picked to live once I've left home are just so not right for me, in the other ways that I feel comfortable, that returning home, I feel like it should give me the thing that I've been missing. Like it should give me the balance that I've been searching for, but it doesn't. And so I feel like this is maybe the fifth or sixth time that I've had this where, you know, I felt really like I was missing home and I just needed comfort. And the comfort is in the relationships that I have, but it's not in the place. And so I feel like I'm finally understanding that the two are not connected. And that might be really obvious to people, but I always thought that, you know, returning home would make me feel good, and then I could use that good push to, like, you know, do what I needed to do once I return to the place that I currently live and I feel uncomfortable again. I could use that as a pushing off board to like just be stronger. But that's not how it ever works for me. It always leaves me kind of feeling like more empty than when I left, because I was like expecting something. I don't expect anything really from here because everything's sort of different. So maybe I'm babbling, but it's like I went in with the expectation that I was going to feel comfortable, and I leave with the feeling of like, well, if I'm not comfortable in the place that I grew up, where the hell am I going to be comfortable? And maybe I have to arrange in my head how I feel about it. And so that's sort of kind of like what I'm doing. I'm trying to arrange how to feel better about certain things that I can't really control. I can't really visit every place and see where I feel comfortable. So I have to learn how to feel comfortable in the in-between, instead of fighting it, I guess. So I feel lost, but I feel lost in a way that like I don't have a sense of urgency to have myself be found. I feel like I'm okay in the wandering around phase. I don't know if that's like well put, and hopefully you understand that. It's sort of okay. I understand that it's never going to be like that, and I'm gonna stop expecting that when I go home. And maybe that can help me experience home in a better, nicer way, because I won't expect that from home. I'll learn to get something else from that experience instead of always being disappointed. So I think that was big for me, because I always kind of expected to be comfortable after I went to back home, but I'm just not. And I don't know why I don't feel like that is homey to me, and I feel comfortable. And I don't have the answers for like where I could feel comfortable. I think it's just like a learning thing. But like I learned something really interesting about like cities that I'd never learned before, because I never really had to learn them before. So I'm learning what makes a city affluent versus it's a dying place. And geography has a lot to do with it, and previous industries has a lot to do with it, and I'm sort of learning that. I learned that as I was driving through. I would see like a lot of factories that like looked really abandoned, and I would put that into my brain as far as like thinking about what kind of jobs are available if there's like tons of factories and industry like that, versus like newer and more upcoming industries that don't have such obvious like infrastructure. Like for example, if a place is very tech forward and has like a lot of new stuff that way, it's probably going to be more modern and upcoming than a place that was built upon older industries like coal. Or from where I'm from, it was 100 years ago. It was a booming place, but then once the railroad came in and industry changed because of the technologies that were available, suddenly things that were once booming are now like completely destroyed, because the people that were smart enough to get out got out, and the people that stuck their feet in the mud and kind of just like, you know, didn't adjust to change and kind of stayed once the boom was over. It's a slow, sad decline to the societies that are there now. And it's basically like a lot of people don't have very good jobs, a lot of people are very depressed, and a lot of people turn to drugs and alcohol and vices to just get them through the day, and they don't have a lot of upward opportunity, and it's just a hard kind of, you know, rough life. And I see that from like where I'm from. I see that from where like how the city was just great before, and it was like on the forefront of like places in America, and then it just goes sideways. And I didn't see all that before. I just saw I just saw like the aftermath, and I didn't understand how it came to be. And so as I'm driving through like Baltimore, if I'm driving through like different places, I'm seeing like the industry on the outskirts of like the bad areas of town that are more abandoned. Like the city center is usually where like things are kept more modern, and more like culture and stuff. And so I don't think I've ever been exposed to so many different obvious areas of, this is how people evolved, this is where people stayed the same and tried to like, you know, ride it out, but the riding out just turned into like delaying the inevitable. So I'm seeing like different things of that, and I'm understanding how affluent areas come to be. And that's really important for my job, because I need to follow where the wealth is in order to like pick up the stuff that they get rid of. But it's also just kind of like more comfortable to live in an area that is like on the ups than it is on the outskirts, no, on the outs. So I'm understanding that, like geography plays a big part into things. I watched a video last night of why a state that's very close to me is like one of the poorest in America, because a lot of the state cannot support bigger cities because of the geography. Like the mountains just don't allow places to be built, and like the flatter area allows for a bigger city to grow. And if you don't have that, then you know, fewer and fewer people are going to pick that area to put their bigger companies. They're not going to grow on the side of a mountain. That's just, you know, when you could literally put your company anywhere, why would you make it hard for yourself? So I see certain things that I didn't see before that I'm starting to understand, because number one, I have a car and I can like go wherever I need to go, but also I'm forcing myself to see the patterns, and so I can figure out where to go in order to be more successful with my business right now. Because previously all I had to do was go to this one place, and I didn't have to learn all these things. And so it's almost like learning my job over again, but it's also learning like what makes me happy. It makes me super unhappy to be in a place that is failing, because the vibe is just really bad, and I didn't really understand that. And so I feel like because I took this trip, and because I've like moved across the country where like it's forcing me to relearn different aspects of my business, I'm forced to like attack the problem that I've always had, where like, why don't I feel comfortable in my own community? Why don't I feel comfortable back home? Why do I always feel like I just need to leave? Why do I always feel like I need to, I don't belong here? And I felt like that since I was a child. I felt like I needed to get out of here. It was my duty to get out of here versus, you know, doing what other people do in order to just survive there. And I never felt like I just wanted to survive, and I don't know why, because that solution is a pretty good solution for most people, but like I don't, and I never will. And it probably, you know, that's not a good solution for me, to just kind of sit with your unhappiness. And I don't know why that's what I do, but I have always been like that, where I need to push forward and discover my own true happiness. I wanted to kind of explain to you what that was like for me, choosing to follow my happiness, what that is like for me when it comes to dating people. And I have this whole thing that I want to talk to you guys about, if you want to kind of talk about it, as far as like how to adjust your expectations for online dating, because it can be, because of the nature of it, it can be a lot of perceived rejection, because every single time you put yourself out there to tell the world that you like this person, the other person maybe not isn't gonna like you. And I feel like you just do it so much more. It's just so much more normal to like 10 people in one night versus like how your rejection to acceptance ratio would be if you went out in real life. And so it's just like a lot more to handle mentally than how it would be in real life. And I don't know if I'm doing a very good job of explaining that, but in my mind it seems correct. But because there is a lot more rejection in a faster pace because it's online, I feel like you can feel like you're getting nowhere. Even if you've only done this for like a week, you can feel like you're getting nowhere super fast. It can feel like you just want to give up because you're just not finding the correct people, even though you've swiped yes or no for like 300 or 400 people, and it just seems like there's no one out there. So adjusting your expectations for how online works versus in person. If you've actually met in person, a lot of the like, if you've met organically, if you've met maybe at a grocery store and you like seem to say hi to somebody, or you talk to them standing in line waiting for your to hotel check-in, those, it's more likely that if you're deciding to talk to each other, that you've already like passed through some of the hoops that you're doing swiping. Does that make sense? So like, if I decide to talk to the person in front of me because I think that they're hot and like they seem funny or like whatever, like I've already decided that they're hot. I've already decided that if I talk to them, that they wouldn't like back down on me. Like it wouldn't be like a harsh rejection in person. So a harsh rejection is just, online, it's just like they literally don't talk back with you, they unfollow you, they do something where they ghost you. It's just kind of harsh like that. In person, it's not like that. So I feel like in order to have good results, or in order to like keep yourself mentally good throughout this process, because it's going to take just as long. You just see more options that aren't right for you, and it just feels worse and different. It just feels not great. It feels like everybody is not for you. But in person, if you try to do that, or if you have a conversation and it like goes somewhere and you feel like some sort of connection, in person it just feels kind of nicer, because it's like you're one for one, or you're like, you've only talked to a few people in person that day or whatever, and it was like a nice connection, so maybe you're one for two. That seems like a better like ratio of being rejected versus it could possibly go somewhere, than you're like one for like 100. So just know the nature of the game, and so like keep that expectation in your head that like it's just going to be, it's going to take a long time to find people that you're interested in. Just because you see a lot more people does not mean it's going to take less time. Theoretically, it could take less time, but it's just the nature of everything that it's probably going to take the same amount of time that in person would do. It just is a different way of getting to know people. So anyways, when I actually do match with people online, I've only matched with a few since I've been here, because I kind of refuse to like pay for the apps. And I honestly don't know if paying for the apps would actually get me any closer to what I'm looking for. And so I don't know, I find it kind of like a preyed upon market. I don't really enjoy having to pay for like love. That seems kind of like ugh. But it's like a really big market. It's like really, it makes a lot of money. So I don't know if I'm going to use it as seriously as I am by like going in person. I feel like going in person might produce better results because it's more sustainable. Like you actually gain skills, versus like getting to know people online. Yeah, that takes a skill, and I feel like I'm going down this very big rabbit hole of like online versus in person, but like it was my comfort zone 100% to learn about people online before, and now I'm forcing myself to like learn both skills because I just feel like it might produce better results, and I need to go after what produces better results instead of staying with what I know and like kind of hoping that things work out like that. Like I'm trying to increase my odds of, you know, things working out. But anyways, approaching people and kind of like making your intentions known in person to a stranger, there's a whole nother skill set that you need to have. You need to accept rejection well. You need to not be so desperate that like you need to hide your intentions enough so that if it doesn't go well, you can just like play it off as if you were just trying to be casual. Like online, it's very like, oh, what's your intentions? It's not as coy. It's very like in your face. Do you want to get married? Do you want to have babies? Like, if you don't, I don't want to talk to you. Like in person, it's just like way more chill, like normal. You're not gonna go up to somebody and sit by somebody and be like, do you have children? What do you think about your finances? Like all these things where people like weed out people so fast online because it's just like on to the next, on to the next, on to the next. But if you see somebody like in person, it's like you need to be like a little bit more chilled out. You need to slow your freaking roll like a lot. So I haven't met anybody in person that I enjoy yet, like organically. But I have, getting back to it, I have met a couple of people that seem to be like they could be interesting to me. And I've talked to a lot of people, and I think I have a very good skill of conversation and just being an interesting person because of like the way that I live my life. And so it resonates to other people that I am somebody to get to know because I seem interesting to them because I'm just a little bit different. So what I find is I am compatible with people, but people are not compatible with me. And part of adjusting my expectations for myself is that I understand that I'm like 1 for like 100 on the ratio for online, and just because I'm finding somebody that I enjoy talking to does not mean I need to make it like, oh, I haven't talked to anybody for like 100 people, I really need to like make this work. No, I still need to use the same criteria that would make me actually happy. And so I find myself talking with them and getting to know them, and then, you know, there's different things that come about that don't seem compatible with where I'm going and what I want to do with myself, or what I want to do in a relationship, or what I need from a relationship. I've been by myself for a long time, so, you know, I've come to the conclusions of the things that I don't want because I've experienced that in my past relationships, and I don't want to repeat that because I already know that makes me unhappy. Or like I've added things in my life that I've done for myself, and I want to keep that up, and I want other people to find that valuable, and I want other people to be kind of, you know, complementary to how I'm moving forward. And so I find that I am compatible with a lot of people, but a lot of people are not compatible with me. And I'm realizing that my work on myself has taken me out of the category that I was at when I wasn't working on myself. I always think that this is horrible to kind of say it like this, but I always think that there's categories. There's people that don't care about the people that they let into their lives because their lives are also kind of screwed up. And so if you met somebody who had their lives kind of not screwed up at all, you would feel an imbalance. But if you find somebody messier than you, the imbalance is more in your favor because you're more of a put together than this person. But like when you get to a certain point where like you've sort of fixed your life and you've sort of arranged your values how you want, and you got your personality kind of down to a science where like you are good with who you are, and you're clear about where you're going, you're lost but you're okay with it. I feel like when you've reached that point, this is horrible to say, but there's kind of like a lot of different stages of development below you, and so those people are not really compatible with you anymore because you're more or less looking forward. And it's very easy to see that you're not on that same scale, but it's also, you're not at the top scale where like people have it super figured out. You're kind of in this weird medium figured out part of life. And dating compatibility for me is like, I don't want to date not below my status, because it's not about status, it's about below my mindset. And like, I don't mind if people don't think like exactly like I do, but I kind of want them to be able to impact my life in a good way. When I see that their lives are kind of real messy, I just see like the drama of it, and like drama impacts my life in a negative way and brings me down. The conversations that I would have with that person, the things that I would do with that person with our free time, the nightly talks I have right before we go to bed. Like, I want it to be fulfilling, and I want it to be like just complimentary instead of drag me down, because I really don't want to go down like that. I really don't want to spend more time trying to like level up somebody so that they can just kind of like have a good time with me, and I can, you know, feel like I'm at this person's level. So I kind of want to meet somebody that's at my level or above, but it can't be so above that I feel like I'm a total dumbass, or, you know, I feel like I'm way out of my field with this. So it has to be somebody that I'm interested in physically, but also like interested in mentally, and interested in all the ways that I find that could be like a fun part of a relationship. So because of like, if you've done a lot of work on yourself and you've put a lot of time into it, you're gonna grow in ways that kind of take you out of the dating pool that you used to be in. And so it's kind of like relearning dating all again. So it's sort of like I'm relearning a lot of things that I didn't expect to relearn, and I don't know why I didn't anticipate that. So I'm relearning how to make my money within the same parameters of how to make my money. I have the same job, but like how to make my money is a little bit different now. So I'm relearning that. I'm relearning how to feel about my surroundings, and I'm relearning how to understand where my home is. And it's not where I grew up, and I have to like give that up. Finally, I have to just be like, okay, this isn't going to produce a homey nice feel. I have to relearn how to fight for what I actually want in relationships. As I said, I made 2 different connections with 2 different people, and it seemed like they really enjoyed me, but I didn't really enjoy them. And to listen to that inner voice that says they're not right for you for these reasons. And I know like learning about somebody online is a small snippet of what they could be, but the more that you talk with people, the more you're just like, this doesn't feel right, and it doesn't feel right for these reasons. You're just like incompatible because, you know, of various things that are important to you. It's always super important to me that they be curious about me, and they have a lifelong curiosity about me, because that means that they wouldn't get bored of me, and that means that I don't have to keep jumping through hoops in order to gain their attention. I feel like that comes from being like cheated on. It's like you're like never good enough, and like, so like they're always looking for the greener grass. I want someone to see that I'm green all the time. I want someone to see that I don't have to change and do all these things, but I'm just an interesting person because they're an interesting person to me, and I like their soul, I like their mindset, I like how they think. They don't have to do stuff that's just crazy in order for me to like have renewed love for them or whatever. So if they don't possess that interest in me in the very beginning, what makes you think that they're going to possess that later on? A lot of people aren't interested to know that I do a certain job, and that's not the same as like trying to get to know my soul. And I know that that seems like a lot to put on to somebody that I don't even know, but I'm very good at assessing when people are just interested in what I can give them versus when people are actually interested in learning about how I think and learning about, you know, how compatible we are with our mindsets. So because if my goal was to like have like a trillion relationships, I think, you know, having different priorities and criteria of how to choose a partner would allow for more people, but I have a very small window right now because of the things that I said. I've elevated myself, so I've taken myself out of the messy person dating pool, and I don't know if I ever really belonged there, but I felt like I belonged there because of my financial status and like everything that was going on with my life that was dramatic, that didn't really have anything to do with me, but like my life was pretty dramatic. Now I'm like a single person that lives in a 2-bedroom apartment by myself, and I'm self-employed, and I finally have my own car, you know, like I am sorting out my money situation. So it's not as like cush as somebody who like is very well established in a lot of different areas of their lives. Like there's still more work to be done as far as like getting to more actualized people, I guess. But it's weird to like fight for dating at the level that you want to date at versus just accepting people that are below you. And I feel like that's really rude to say, but that's just kind of sort of how it is. So I don't know if you've experienced that, like where you've elevated yourself and suddenly you're no longer, you know, people stay stuck, and like I could create more problems for myself, but I could go on way more dates if I just like accepted dates from the people that were not compatible with me. I'm pretty compatible for them, I'm pretty good for them, but they're not good for me. So it's like having like imposter syndrome. It's like, did I really do enough work in order to like go after these types of people that I want to go after? Like knowing in your heart that you deserve better, and like putting your actions towards that is kind of like its own process. And so I feel like the whole time of what I'm talking about in this video is like going after what you feel in your gut as far as like what feels comfortable and what doesn't, and figuring out why it doesn't feel comfortable, and like accepting that. So like part of acceptance would be accepting that I am just going to be a lot more lonely than I thought. I thought like, oh, just moving would be, you know, the world would open up for me. But it's like I see what I've done for myself, and I see that I've elevated myself, but that comes with its own consequences of no longer having the skills, I guess. Like I'm aware that I have more skills, but I don't have the same skills that I had dating those types of people, because I've never dated at my level that I am now, because I just started trying to date at this level. I did a lot of dating when I was super messy. I did a lot of stuff about life when I was super messy, and a lot of those skills that I have in that dating world are tied to like what I learned then. I don't have a lot of experience dating in my current life situation where it's less messy. Does that make sense? So like I am aware that I need to build up these skills, and it's like literally always like this uphill battle. But if I could just be happy with, you know, accepting what life gives me, then it would be a lot easier for myself, because I could use my old skills and date the people that are not good for me, and probably find somebody that wasn't too horrible, but then I'd always like regret not trying. So like I can't do that. I can't settle. And I don't know why, and I think that's why I first explained why I can't settle from like when I was a kid. Like I it's just not in my nature to settle. I'm going to be very unhappy. So I have to, what's the other alternative? The other alternative is that I learn the skills in order to make myself comfortable at the level that I'm at. And I learn how to date in a healthy person way to other healthy people. I know how to date unhealthy people. I know what comes with that, and I know the skills that you need in order to have that emotionally, mentally, all those things. It's hard. So both things are hard, so pick your hard. So I'm gonna learn how to do my life. I'm going to learn how to do this with to like be healthier, I guess, and to like want that for myself, and to reinforce that with the decisions that I make. And I think I'm trying to explain that to you, because I've already made those decisions, but I didn't know what I was doing when I kind of like not rejected those people, but I was like, you know what, I don't think we should go on a date, because they were super into me, but I wasn't super into them. And I didn't put two and two together that I was ready to move on above dating people that were not as healthy as I am, perceivably. I find myself kind of more healthy than a lot of people, like in a lot of ways, because I've worked on myself. Like you guys have watched me do that. A lot of the time people they date during this phase where they're trying to become better in all areas of their lives, and they're trying to become more healthy. But I did it where I took myself out of the dating world, and I just worked on myself. And so now I really want to re-enter, and it's like the things, the expectations for myself to maintain my healthiness. I want that in my relationships as well, not just for my own actions that I do by myself. And so I want to find somebody that fits into that, instead of me sinking down. I would find that really not great. So I wanted to talk about that, because I couldn't put into words like what it was making me feel like until this video. And I feel like that's always like the magic of making these vlogs. It's like I'm going through something and I feel really stressed about it, but I don't really understand why until I've explained it to you. And in my life, I don't always have the opportunity to explain it to somebody, because I'm by myself. I do talk with my friends, but like sometimes the conversations, you know, they don't always follow whatever I'm thinking about in my head, because of the two-way street. But when you're making a YouTube video, there is really no two-way street until like the comment section. So this is really one of the only places that I can gather my thoughts and not have to like share the speaking spotlight with somebody else, because that's what you do in like a healthy relationship. You don't just talk about yourself like the whole time. You listen and you add input, and like you wait for other people's input, and then the conversation might shift. But for these YouTube videos, it's like I have this thing that I just want to talk about, and I could go on a 25-minute tangent about it and it'd be okay, because I don't have to listen to you, because you're not really here, right? So this is like one of the only interesting places that allows me to do this. And so this is how it unlocks those things in my brain for me. And it's nice because then afterwards I get to be like, okay, now I can make actionable things happen from like how I felt. And I couldn't put a word on how I felt because I never explained it, or I never arranged it outside of how it is discombobulated in my head with just a thought and feelings. But now it's like out there, it's like organized in a way that like was able to be explained to somebody else. And so therefore it's easy for me to go rewatch this and be like, okay, this is where I need to shift my focus. So as nice as it is to share my stuff with the world, like part of this is really how to feel about the inner workings of my brain. And hopefully that's just interesting to you and helpful to you. But like, just know that because you're allowing me to have a platform to do this, it's just so helpful for me. So if you get anything out of this, that makes me obviously doubly happy. But I want to know, like, do you guys ever feel like there's a lag between who you are and who you're going after? I used to do this where I would pick people that were way less attractive to me because the likelihood of them saying yes to me was greater, and so I could control the amount of rejections that I could get, and I could just feel like, oh, I'm like 1 for like, you know, I'm 1 for 5, I'm 10 for, you know, 60 as far as matches goes, and it just felt good that way. But I'm like over that, where like if I'm not physically attracted to them, I don't even really, and they don't have anything else that could possibly be like exciting for me to like know about them, given their information that they put in their profiles or whatever. If I'm doing the whole matching thing online, I just skip it because I just know that that's an element that's really important for me. I need to be able to like kiss them. I need to be able to feel like I'm attracted to them. That's one of the things that is really important for a person with my personality and my wants and needs from a relationship. So anyways, I've learned to not do that. I've learned to try to go after more of what I want and to accept the rejection and to handle the rejection in a way that doesn't overwhelm me. Maybe I won't keep scrolling through, because like I can get really overwhelmed. I'm just like, there's literally no one good here. But like, I just haven't seen everybody. Or maybe the algorithm of the people that they're showing me are all like the not attractive people, because all the not attractive people have paid for this app, and all the people that are attractive don't need to pay, and I haven't seen them yet. You know what I mean? So like, I understand the workings of the platforms and how they make their money and how that affects how I feel about my rejection status and how like I'm making progress or not making progress, because that impacts how you feel about putting yourself out there. And if I can control how I feel about that, I can maintain not being a bitter bitch. Because like, when you've just been annoyed by everybody that you've matched with, or you know, you can really honestly tell when people are just super bitter in their profiles. It's like they start saying things that are really salty, and it's like, oh, you just need to like take a little step back here. So I'm trying to maintain a healthy outlook on this, and a positive outlook, and to not get too bogged down with like just being fed a whole bunch of people that are not compatible with me, but also not to lower my standards. Just because I'm finally compatible with somebody doesn't mean I need to really go all in just because they're the first person in like 1,000 people that I've seen that could slightly be interesting. So it's like maintaining my own expectations for what I want, but also to remain healthy. I feel like it's like, I'm aware that all of these elements are working together, but I'm trying to make it scientific in a way that's like not putting all the blame on me. Meaning like, if I don't have many matches, Like maybe my profile is bad, maybe I'm just too fat, maybe I'm this, maybe I'm that. Like all my insecurities could really get me down, and to not be my best self when I'm, you know, out there doing my thing. So I have to remember that in all the areas that I'm working on, and I think I'm working on 3 or 4 different things right now, and it all has to do with seeing where I lack in skill, and to acknowledge that, and to acknowledge the alternative if I don't up my skill level. So it's either be okay with where my current skill level can get me, or to be okay with knowing that I have to fight through and actually gain some more skills in order to be more comfortable doing things. So I'm trying to learn these skills, and then I'm trying to like learn how to be, where am I comfortable? So understanding how cities work, and understanding what in a city makes me comfortable versus what isn't, is like another way that I can get closer to being in a place that I feel comfortable. Does that make sense? I feel like that makes plenty of sense to me, and it's all interrelated because it's all things that I need to level up right now, and I'm working on it in tandem. But these are different things that I've worked on than I've worked on in the past. So they're harder for me to explain in a concrete way to somebody else, because this is the first time that I've really thought about it in this way. For the last 3 years, I've really done a lot of growing, but in different ways. And so I guess this is the first time that I'm understanding that I need to grow in this new way. So anyways, hopefully like that was like you're able to follow what I'm actually talking about, because it seems like in my mind's eye that it's all interrelated, and it is all able to be digested by somebody else. But like, you don't live in my head, and you don't know what I know, and you don't have the context that I'm not saying accidentally, because I don't know that you need that context. So hopefully without like the perfect amount of context or whatever, you understand what I'm saying, and it means something to you in some sort of way, or it resonates somewhere in your own life, or you know, I really honestly want to know like what you're working on in your own life, and like why, what made you want to do this, what are the obstacles that you have, and what are the things that you're doing that, you know, are getting you through to where you want to be. Those are the things I want to know. I want to know that about you, because I just spent a whole bunch of time talking about my own crap. But it is important to me to like, you know, be supportive of like what you're doing with your life. Take the time to watch me. So anyways, I hope that you guys are having a great, what is this? This is already Thursday. It always feels like a Monday to me when I'm first, you know, restarting things. Because yeah, that's just how it is when you work for yourself and you don't really follow a normal schedule. Everything always just feels like a Monday once you've decided to like fully go after stuff, and like weekends don't feel like weekends. It's just weird. Time is weird when you are kind of like this. So anyways, it felt like a Monday, but it's a Thursday, so most of you guys will be enjoying your weekend. Oh, it's Thursday. That's why I'm filming this, because I had nothing for tomorrow. I'd pre-filmed a whole bunch of stuff, and I've been putting that out, and then I didn't have anything for this Friday besides like my first part of a series that I've already filmed. And I guess I should explain that. So I wanted to make this video to kind of update you where I'm at right now, but also to kind of let you know that I have this series that I worked on when I first got here, and it was like explaining my my path to like my career path, to like how I got to like where I am right now, and explaining the nuances and the things that I learned in like my professional life. I've explained a lot about like my personal life, but I've never explained like the decisions and things and uphill battles and all good and the bad of the transitions that I've made in my professional life, career-wise. So I wanted to explain that. And I felt like it might be a fun thing to kind of go over, because the economy is weird, And just to put it out there, this was my path to an alternative career. So I don't know, I just felt like that was a fun thing to kind of like make into a series. And so I already have the first video to that filmed and uploaded. It just needs to go up, but I felt like I needed to explain a little bit about like where I am right now before we get into that. So next week, because I've introduced it and you're not like, where did this come from? Next week, I will put that up. I will put that up as far as this will be the first day of the series, and it will last every Friday until the end of that series, where I finish where I explain my career up until this point. But it starts when I'm a child, and then work my way to college, and then what happened after college. So that is my first video. Getting that into college, what I did when I was in college, and then what my life was like after college and the very beginning of my professional career. So that's next week. And then it'll go into like, I'll have like chunks of time, because I'm, you know, not so old where I need like 30 videos to do this, but I'll have like chunks of like time where I explain my career and the transitions that I made, and like why I made the choices that I did. But I don't know where I was going with it, other than that's what's happening next week. And hopefully you're excited about it, because I was excited in making it. And making this series is going to be a good thing for me, because it's gonna allow me time to like work on the things that I talked about in this video, gain a little bit of skills happen over time and with experience. And I can't come back next Friday and be like, well, this is the crap that I worked on, and this is how I've changed, because it doesn't happen that fast. And so the series will take probably about, you know, a month and a half in order to like once every Friday to upload. And so maybe by the time that I come back after the series, I'll have some better like things for you as far as like what happens. Things in my head happen pretty quickly as far as transitions, and especially once it's very clear to me that I need to work on something, it happens kind of fast, and I make actions towards the things that I want to work on. And so while I don't have like the answers right now, by the end of like a month and a half, I might have a little bit of an update. So it gives me a little bit of time to work on my current life things, but it also is just like kind of like a fun thing to kind of talk about that I'd never really talked about before. So I hope that you enjoy this equally, and it's not really boring. That's like my one thing, that I don't want to make this boring for you. I want this to be purposeful in a way that it like gives you something. It gives you a feel-good thing, or it gives you something like positive. It doesn't take away from you. So anyways, being boring would like obviously take away. So I'm babbling, I know it, I'm sorry. But I'm gonna go back to organizing all the things that I bought on my trip, and to get them up and to make some money so I can stop thinking about sales. And I hope that you guys have a great weekend. You guys will be seeing this Friday, so I hope you have a great Friday night. Typically on Fridays I work to, you know, go out to eat or something and put myself out there to try to meet people organically, but I've been doing a lot of that, and I need to focus more on my business, so I won't be having any dates or anything. I'm just gonna focus on the things that bring me back to an equilibrium, so that I can move forward in the things that I want to move forward on. That's how I do things. Is that how you do things? Like, I fix my sleep. After I've traveled, I fix my sleep. I fix my eating. I fix my sales that sucked when I was gone. And then I move forward. I build upon my base layer. That's how I do it. I don't know if other people do it, but that's how I do it. So, anyways, thank you for listening. Thank you for allowing me a place to organize my thoughts, and so I could feel better about things. I had a giant headache before I started this, and now I don't. So I feel like that's just literally proof of like I need a way to, you know, organize my thoughts, and maybe I need to write them down, but I feel like this is way more efficient and way more fun. But anyways, thank you so much, and I will see you guys next week.